Hello everyone, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, I think this is time. We will start this one. Um, the Honorable Ibu Dr. Siti Nurbaya Bakar, Minister of Environment and Forestry of Republic of Indonesia, which is represented by the Honorable Dr. Rwanda Asugardiman, Director General of Climate Change Control, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia. The Honorable Mr. Ken Olfactory, COP26 Ambassador to Asia Pacific and South Asia, the Honorable Mr. Kurt McLendin, UK's Capacity Building Lead, the COP26 Presidency Team, the Honorable Dr. Marzena Kodor, Chair Paris Committee of Capacity Building, PCCB, represent UNFCCC, the Honorable Professor Dedi Hadrianto, Advisor of APIK Indonesia Network, the Honorable Dr. Mahawan Karuniasa, Chairman of APIK Indonesia Network, the Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Of course, first of all, thank you very much for gatherings here and very warm welcome to the third International Conference Indonesian Expert Network for Climate Change and Forestry, APIK Indonesia Network. This third conference have a theme, Nature-Based Solution for the Implementation of NDC and NAP in Developing Countries 2020. It is with great honor. My name is Yunita Ismail. I am your Master of Ceremony for this opening ceremony. APIK Indonesian Network is an Indonesian expert and practitioner network for the climate change and forestry, focusing on education, research, and community services related to climate change. APIK Indonesia Network comprises of 7 regional networks and has 491 total members from 107 universities, research institutions, training centers, ministries, local governments, and other institutions throughout Indonesia. The objective of this third international conference of APIK Indonesia Network are, first is to share ideas, lesson learned, and best practices in the implementation of NDCs and NAPs in developing countries. Second is to identify the key issue on capacity buildings and ambition in developing countries. And the third is to disseminate update climate science in the implementation of NDCs and NAPs in developing countries. Okay, we continue to first speech. I would like to invite Dr. Mahawan Karuniasa as a chairman of APIK Indonesia Network that will deliver a welcoming speech. Without further ado, I invite Dr. Mahawan. Please, Pak.
Thank you, Bu Yunita. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Firstly, on behalf of APIK Indonesia Network, I would like to extend my gratitude to the Honorable Ibu Dr. Siti Nurbaya Bakar, Minister of Environment and Forestry of Republic of Indonesia, which is represented by Honorable Dr. Wanda A. Sugardiman, Director General of Climate Change Control, Minister of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia, for addressing keynote speech. And the Honorable Mr. Ken O. Flaherty, COP26 Ambassador to Asia Pacific and South Asia, for your time to deliver remarks in this conference. My highest appreciation to distinguished speakers, Dr. Marcena Kodor, co-chair of Paris Committee on Capacity Building, Mr. Carl McAlinden, United Kingdom's Capacity Building Lead in the COP26 Presidency Team, Professor Salimul Haq, the Director of the International Center for Climate Change and Development, Bangladesh, Mr. Lee Hoang An, Department of Science, Technology and Environment under MARD, Vietnam, Ms. Lourdes Fetibik, the National Panel of Technical Experts, Climate Change Commission of the Philippines, Dr. Nur Masripatin, Senior Advisor for Climate Change and International Convention, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia, Dr. Felino Pelansigan, College of Art and Communication, University of Philippines, Los Banos, Ibu Emma Rahmawati, Director of Mitigation, Director General of Climate Change Control, Minister of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia. And thank you to the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and especially member of APIK Indonesia Network for your participation. Let me also thank to the institution and organization that contribute to this important event, the Environment Institute, Asia Pacific Resource Holding or APRIL, the Climate Reality Project Indonesia, and School of Environmental Science, University of Indonesia. Also, I would like to thank to the conference team and all members of APIK Indonesia Network from Aceh province in the western part of Indonesia to province of Papua in the eastern part of Indonesia for preparing this conference. Colleagues, the science has warned us that going beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius will increase the frequency and intensity of the climate change impact. The news is that in 2019, the global average temperature reached 1.1 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level. And based on the UN Environment Program emission gaps report, the emission in 2018 was 55.3 gigaton, while to well below 1.5 degrees Celsius, we cannot exceed 25 gigaton emission by 2030. The report also notes that if unconditional national determined contribution under the Paris Agreement are fully implemented, we are still on course for 3.2 degrees Celsius temperature rise. In general, the full implementation of NDC under the Paris Agreement will result emission between 53 to 56 gigaton by 2030. We need more ambition on global climate action. In the COVID-19 pandemic, the global emission is predicted to fall about 5% in 2020. But potentially, when the pandemic pace, business as usual recovery will return the greenhouse gas emission. We need low carbon and we need sustainable recovery. Distinguished speakers and participants, this conference is just one of 1,000 webinars and a small part of global effort to achieve our sustainable future. But the message that we would like to send from this conference is that learning from COVID-19 pandemic, we need to strengthen stakeholder engagement, we need to build better solidarity, and we need to implement science-based action for facing the climate crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third International Conference of APIK Indonesia Network. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Mahawan. We continue, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Now I would like to invite with honor Professor Dedi Hadrianto as an advisor of APIK Indonesia Network to deliver an opening speech. Please, Professor Dedi.
Thank you very much, Bu Yunita. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Honorable Dr. Ruanda Agung Sugartiman, the Director General of Climate Change Control, Ministers of the Environment and Forestry Republic of Indonesia, Honorable Ken O'Flaherty, the COP26 Regional Ambassador to Asia Pacific and South Asia, Honorable Mr. Carl McAlinden's UK Capacity Building Lead, the COP26 President's Team, Honorable Dr. Marzena Khodor, Co-Chair Paris Committee on Capacity Building, Honorable Dr. Nur Maslupatin, Senior Advisor for Climate Change and International Convention of Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia, Honorable Dr. Mahawan Karuniasa, Chairman of Indonesian Climate Change and Forestry or APIK Network. Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, indeed, I'm pleased to welcome you to this third International Conference Indonesia Expert Network for Climate Change and Forestry with the themes Nature-Based Solution for the implementation of NDC and NAP in developing countries. Yes, I fully agree that we need to focus more in the developing countries. First of all, I would like to introduce APIK Indonesia, as already mentioned by previous speakers. APIK Indonesia Network is an Indonesian experts and practitioner network for climate change and forestry, focusing on education, research, and community services related to climate change. APIK Indonesia Network comprises of 7 regional networks and has 491 total members from 107 university, research institution, training center, ministries, local government, and other institutions throughout Indonesia. So the organization was established in 2014 and actively contribute on global effort for facing the climate crisis, especially at the national level and regional level in Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific area. This year, with the challenging COVID-19 pandemic situation, Indonesia Expert Network for Climate Change and Forestry or APIK Indonesia Network continue to work and will convene the third international conference. And back to our conference themes, climate change is one of the greatest environment issues in recent decades, and developing countries are suffering its adverse impact. Mitigation and adaptation are keys for reducing greenhouse gases emission and increasing resilience or reducing vulnerability. Developing countries contribute to global emission, but on the other hand, also have high potential risk of climate change impact with limited capacity, finance, and technology to support climate action. Developing countries should enhance their capacity and mitigation and adaptation measure without and with support from developed countries toward just and sustainable future. The full implementation of the National Development Determined Contribution or NDC this decade will determine the achievement of global effort in order to meet the goal of the Paris Agreement. As we realize that the Paris Agreement target is still in the pathway to be above 1.5 degree warmer, the 1.5 degree target demands more ambition under updated NDC from all parties, including us, developing country parties. Besides, National Adaptation Plan or ANIP is expected to increase resilience, particularly for poor people and vulnerable communities, area or countries. Solution for mitigation and adaptation need to consider local context on the economic, social, and ecological aspect. Natural-based solution that incorporates economic and social issue will bring us to our just and sustainable future. Therefore, this international conference is dedicated as a forum for key stakeholders for strengthening engagement, sharing ideas, exchange best practice, and lesson learned. Also, for disseminating updated climate policy and science that we are going to discuss. I am indeed very grateful to the many experts who have come to share their knowledge in this conference. I also welcome to the many representatives of government, business communities, academicians, and researchers, also the media and civil organizations to build symmetrical climate action. I'm sure you will have fruitful and rewarding exchange in the next few days, and I wish you every success with this important conference, and I look forward to learning about the outcome. Thank you very much. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Dedi. Now, this is the time that we're waiting for. This is the keynote speech from Ibu Dr. Siti Nurbaya Bakar as the Minister of Environment and Forestry Republic of Indonesia. That will deliver as a keynote speech in this international conference, and then the title that's for the keynote speech is Indonesia Initiative on Long-Term Strategy for Low Carbon and Climate Resilience, CCR. Without further ado, I would like to invite Bapak Dr. Ruanda Asugardiman as the representative of Ibu Siti Nurbaya Bakar. Pak Ruanda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The floor is yours, Pak. Please.
Yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is great pleasure to welcome you to the third international conference APIK Indonesia Network. When the world leaders signed the Paris Agreement on climate change 4 years ago, they pledged to keep global temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius, above the pre-industrial level, and to work to keep the increase as close as possible to 1.5 degrees Celsius. With this fact in mind, I believe all participants of this event will be focused on and give the best thought in finding possible solution on how we can work together to pursue this wholeheartedly goal of global community. Ladies and gentlemen, every country on every continent is now affected by climate change, which is disrupting national economic development and affecting life, costing people, communities, and country today and even more tomorrow. The changes of weather pattern, the rising of sea level, and the weather event are becoming more extreme, as well as the continued rising of greenhouse gas emission are the evidence of this global change. Recently, all countries, poor countries, developing countries, including developed countries, are all experiencing setback due to exposure to COVID-19. The world economic crisis is also the worst in history. The COVID-19 pandemic has been a siren call for stronger action in the face of global threats. The President's direction at People Consultative Assembly session in August 14, 2020, not only mentioned the fact that in the first quarter of 2020, we had economic growth was plus 2.97%, but also in the second quarter, Indonesia is in the state of minus 5.32% of economic growth. The similar situation, decreasing economic growth during the pandemic, is also happening throughout the world, including the developed country, with a range of minus 17 to minus 20%. Ladies and gentlemen, climate change and COVID-19 share a marked similarity, that the worst damage is only averted when society commit to decisive and early action in the face of the seemingly abstract threat. Failure to tackle such a disaster could cause new pattern of pests and disease to emerge, affecting plant, animal, and human, and posing new risks for food security, food safety, and human health. Climate change, however, is not only a global challenge, but doesn't respect national border, but also is an issue that requires solution that need to be coordinated at the international level to help developing countries move toward a low carbon economy. Without climate action, the global temperature is likely to surpass 2 degrees Celsius this century, and the poorest and the most vulnerable communities are being affected the most. Ladies and gentlemen, Decision 1 CP21 paragraph 35 invite state parties to submit to the UNFCCC Secretariat no later than 2020 the document for the long-term 2050 midterm, long-term, and low greenhouse emission strategy development strategy in the accordance with Article 4.19 of the Paris Agreement. Indonesia's plan to respond to this mandate has been executed, and the process of the elaboration of the long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilient development, LTS-LCCR. The LTS-LCCR document will outline adaptation and mitigation element by using several pathways to achieve the Paris Agreement target, namely limiting the global temperature rise by 2 degrees Celsius and striving to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius. The main principle of the LTS-LCCR development is to toward development with the low greenhouse gas emission and climate resilient, while maintaining increased economic growth and taking into account national socio-political condition. Various references will be used for scenario preparation, modeling, determination of pathways. The preparation of LTS Indonesia will use the backcasting method, where the target is set first, and then a series of implementation instrument is prepared to support the target. Ladies and gentlemen, the strategy is needed as a direction for implementation of Paris Agreement to achieve of holding the Earth temperature rise, which will also be able to describe the highest level of GHG emission and the peaking time, as well as the strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emission in total to achieve net zero emission. Currently, 17 countries that in the a Paris Agreement, such as Benin, Canada, Costa Rica, Czech, European Union, Fiji, France, Germany, Japan, Mexico, Portugal, Republic of Marshall Islands, Singapore, Slovakia, Ukraine, United Kingdom, and United States. It's already submit the 2050 strategy document. Several other countries, particularly the G20 member countries, are preparing this document. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia is one of the countries that has received recognition from the global community for the success reducing greenhouse gas emission from deforestation and forest degradation activity. This recognition is evidenced by the approval from the GCF to distribute fund worth $103.9 million as a performance-based payment known as result-based payment or RBP scheme. The funding approval from the GCF for REDD Plus proposal shows an impressive response that Indonesia and its side increasing trust in the country and the international community. Indonesia also received an amount of $56 million grant from Norwegia as a first payment for the former success in reducing deforestation and carbon emission under the Reducing Emission from Deforestation and Forest Degradation or REDD Plus cooperation scheme. This shows Indonesia's consistency in carrying out its commitment stated in the Paris Agreement, which has been ratified through the law number 16 years 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, as my final remark, I warmly wish you have a fruitful discussion and productive deliberation in reaching the objective of this meeting. And thank you very much for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Rwanda. Thank you for the very inspirative speech. I think this is the end of the opening ceremony, and then we will continue for the first session. But unfortunately, you will still with me for the first session. In this first session, we will have four speakers. First is Ms. Lee Ho Ang An, the Department of Science, Technology, and Environment under MARD, Vietnam. Ibu Emma Rahmawati, Magister Science, Director of Mitigation, Directorate General of Climate Change Control, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia. Ms. Lourdes P. Tibik, National Panel of Technical Experts, Climate Change Commission of the Philippines, Asia Climate Expert, ICE, Network Member, and Professor Saleh Mulhuk, the Director of International Center of Climate Change and Development, ICCC IAD, Bangladesh. For the first, before Ms. Lee will proceed for the speaker, for the paper, I will read the CV of Ms. Lee. He is Master of Science in Hydroinformatics and Knowledge Management at International Institute for Infrastructure Hydraulic and Environmental Engineering, IHE, Delft, the Netherlands. Professional history, Senior Official of Department of Science, Technology, and Environment, Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development of Vietnam, with more than 20 years experiences. Agriculture and disease focal point for the Vietnam, and the climate negotiator for the at the UNFCCC, selected by the Bureau of IPCC working groups 1, 2, and 3, and then the co-chair of the ITRPI to be a lead author for climate change and land, and IPCC special report on climate change, desertification, land degradation, sustainable land management, food security, and greenhouse gas flux in terrestrial ecosystem. Okay. For the all participants here, if you have question, you can make a question in the link that will deliver in chat. And Ms. Lee will deliver speech with title "The Challenges in the Implementation of NDC and NAP in Vietnam." For the first speaker, we will talk about the implementation of NDC and NAP in Vietnam, and then we will proceed in another countries. Without further ado, Ms. Lee, floor is yours.
So, honorable distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great honor and privilege to participate in this important conference. My name is Lee. I'm focal point for NDC in agriculture sector of Vietnam. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share and discuss with you about the status of NDC and NAP process and the challenges in the implementation. So, shall I share my screen or someone have me to share my presentation?
Sorry, it's
okay.
Okay.
So yeah, next please. So these slides may give you an overview of the National Adaptation Plan and the NDC in the national context. As other countries in Southeast Asia with a long coastal line and heavily populated, Vietnam projected among most affected countries by climate change and sea level rise. So in the core area with the dark blue color, you will see that we have a national adaptation plan issued by the Prime Minister decision. In the light blue area, cover the NAP, we have the action plan, respond to climate change and plan for implementation of Paris Agreement, which is the targeted not only adaptation, but also mitigation, resource preparation, institution and transparency. Then we have also national determined contribution updated. And all of these action and plans then mainstreaming into the sectoral strategy, national strategy, and finally to the sustainable economic development plan of the country. Next, please. So for a feasible implementation, in the methods for NDC review and updated, we developed a set of criteria that could help to select feasible options. It included technical soundness that could be applied at small scale, medium scale, as well as the large scale. We focus on ecological or natural-based solution. We do the cost-benefit analysis and national apartment cost curve are used to integrate the core benefit of the investment, and other intervention include the scalability of the option. We think that mitigation option must be MRV-able or must be M&E for adaptation measure. Given the priority for the option that has large core benefit in response to climate change, economy, society, environment, policy, and institution. Next, please. As you may know that Vietnam NDC updated just submit to the UNFCCC this September 2011. The new target is reduce 9% of GHG emission compared with the business as usual with domestic resources, and can up to 27% with the international support. So adaptation component is very coherent with the National Adaptation Plan and mainly focus on proactively climate smart response to disaster and enhance climate monitoring, ensure the socio-economic security, respond to the sea level rise and urban flooding, while the mitigation component are mitigate the footprint from the energy sector, outflow sector, waste management, and industrial process. Next, please. I could say that not all, but most of the options for NAP and NDC implementation are natural-based solution. Here is illustrated of the option prioritization for NAP and NDC implementation in the outflow sector. We focus on water efficiency and integrated crop management for both rice cultivation and other crop production. Crop residue, animal waste recycling and management, such as composting, biogas, biochar production, feed forage digesting efficiency, protection and restoration of the forest, carbon stock enhancement, and soil conservation, sustainable forest management, including REDD+, main of the prioritization option for the NAP and NDC in the outflow sector. Next, please. So I'm moving to the challenges in the implementation. I will take example only in the outflow sector, and then we can imagine how hard it will be at the national agenda. Outflow sector is a big GHG equivalent emitter just after energy sector. However, the advantage is that it has potential mitigation reduction options that could seem as a natural-based solution. But the disadvantage could be also system is too complex and has a strong interaction. So there's a great challenges remain. In general, it is resource limitation, especially public investment, coordination across sectors, value chain vertically and horizontally, national and subnational capacity, undermined by short-term socio-economic priority in national agenda. In the mitigation aspect, economic incentive, markets, premiums, climate responsible value chains, risk-bearing sharing when promoting low carbon investment and mitigation measure, resource mobilization, especially from private sector, core benefit and economic feasibility and incentive mechanism for implementing. Lack of MRV in the mitigation to recognize the contribution of stakeholders or sectors. In the adaptation aspect, we may facing with the technical know-how or accessibility to sources of providing and material or information. Tools and capacity in analyzing economic feasibility, developing cost-effective for upscaling best practices. Economic incentive markets for development of climate smart, natural-based value chains, risks in bearing and sharing among different stakeholders, resource mobilization, startup innovative incubator for upscaling are just a number of the challenges. My last slide, with these enormous challenges in mind, there's some recommendation of the solution forward. Establish a clear mechanism to strengthen the coordination and communication between NAP and NDC at the sectoral level and national level and subnational level. The sector planners are value chain stakeholders vertically and horizontally in planning and budgeting process. A guideline to strengthen this coordination could have. We need to mainstreaming NAP and NDC planning into budgeting process. Very important. Strengthen a coherent or synergies among different programs in agriculture sector and other sector and also national level. Establish of knowledge and information sharing platform mechanism on climate change scenario, downscaling climate information for policymaker, agro value chain stakeholder for making informed decision. Last but not least, we need to strengthen the international, regional, and South-South cooperation in implementing climate action for NDC and NAP. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I think the point that Mr. Lee wants to share with us, we need to coordinate and communicate about the implementation of NEP and NDC, and then we need to synergize among the programs that we do in all levels, national, regional, and local level. Thank you very much, Ms. Lee. And then we proceed for the second speaker. The second speaker is Ibu Emma Rahmawati, Magister Science. Okay, I just read the CV of Ibu Emma. Ibu Emma is Master of Science in Business Strategy and Environmental Management, University of Bradford, Inggris, and then graduate from Teknik Lingkungan, Environmental Engineering from ITB, and now she is a Director of Mitigation Climate Change in KLHK, and she is Assistant Deputy Mitigasi and Pelestarian Fungsi Atmosfer KLH, Assistant Deputy Adaptasi Perubahan Iklim, Assistant Deputy Pengelolaan B3 and Limbah B3, and so on. And you can see the contact of her. And I just want to remind Bu Emma that we have 10 minutes for share what we done in Indonesia in terms of implementation of NDC and NAP. And we can share in here with another developing countries. I call to Bu Emma. Please, Bu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yunita Ismail. It is a great honor for me to be here, and good afternoon, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Yunita, could you kindly assist me in sharing the screen?
Of course, of course.
Okay, thank you very much. Next slide, please. Yeah, next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a very brief slide presenting how Indonesia adopted and then signed and ratified Paris Agreement together with other parties to the Paris Agreement. Next slide, please. The first NDC Indonesia that has been submitted to UNFCCC in November 2016 has two elements, adaptation and mitigations. For the key features of NDCs consist of low carbon and climate resilience development, Indonesia's vulnerability to climate change, land-based and ocean adaptation and mitigation, transparency framework, means of implementation, and international cooperations. The element of adaptation consists of social and livelihood resilience, ecosystem and landscape resilience, and economic resilience. That's for adaptation. And then for mitigation, we have the target to reduce GHG emission 29%, and then with additional to up to 41% with international cooperation against business as usual. And the base year is 2010. So this is the two major contributors in our mitigation NDC with forestry and energy sector. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is to give you an overview of the structure in our NDCs and our NDC, and then the upper part of of this slide is the detailed action for each sector in mitigation and energy and forestry, agriculture, waste, and IPPU. And the bottom part is how we link these three resiliencies that we are going to achieve by NDC with food security, water security, and energy security. And then of course, it must be supported with capacity building and then regulations. Slide, please. With regard to the implementation of NDC, we have four main aspects that have been developed currently. The first one is institutional and financial aspects. We have developed coordination and consultation mechanisms among related ministries and also all stakeholders, including non-party stakeholders. And then we have developed public service agency for environmental fund management to manage a dedicated fund for environment, particularly for climate change and REDD+. And then we have climate budget taking, and then we have climate village funds that could be used for developing climate village and REDD+. On technical aspect, we have developed GHG inventory and MRV reporting mechanism, and we also have a detailed description on how we are going to move forward to achieve our NDC target in 2030 by having very detailed mitigation action and also adaptation action in each subsector, and also REDD+ implementation and monitoring system. On legal aspect, we have several related ministerial decrees and also the preparation of current presidential regulation and NDC and carbon pricing. And then last one is on data management system. We have developed under the Minister of Environment and Forestry as national focal point to the UNFCCC the system to coordinate the whole system at national level, and also its ministry also has its own data management system. It is also supported with other data. So this is to show you what we are implementing at assisting. First is on the reporting. We have national communication and also BUR, and also this is on the right hand side to show you the national GHG inventory in some years at year 2000, year 2005 up to year 2016 that has been reported in our second BUR. Next slide, please. This is this slide is showing so that how we could we would like to achieve with our NDC mitigation target, and we have a national target to be then divided into sectoral target, and then we have then divided into subnational and also private sector target. This is how we are going to work with this NDC mitigation. Next slide. This is for NDC adaptation that also has developed NDC roadmap. The target is on food, water, and energy security, and there's a link with the health and also ecosystem services. So how these issues could then bring into the detailed roadmap and then strategy, and then how this strategy could then integrate it into the key program, and then to the adaptation strategy, and then directly into action for adaptation. Next slide. Yeah, this is some of data management system that have been developed by Indonesia. At national level, we have a national registry system, we have a MRV system, and we have SIS for REDD+, we have ScienceSmart for national GHG inventory and also subnational GHG inventory. That's under the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. And then in each ministry, for example, Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, and also Ministry of Industry and Ministry of Agriculture has its own data management system that we collect its data, its sectoral data, then to be put into a national system, either for GAG inventory and also for MRV system. So the national registry system will collect all this information, not only mitigation and adaptation actions, but also support, including finance. Next. To achieve NDC, we link NDC on adaptation. We link this with a national adaptation plan. So this slide shows how this links built on the basis of NDC, and then this NDC then give the input to the development of national adaptation plan that also become a reference and guidance for its development sector into the national development plan. So we have target refer to the NDCs, the three target of NDC adaptation on the three resilience, and we have 6 priority sectors. And then this under the NAP, this is then described into adaptation sectors and activities. Next slide, please. This slide shows you how the process to integrate adaptation option in the development plan started for the identification of target areas and specific sectors, and there were some steps that have been done through for this process until we develop the ministerial regulation P33 on the preparation of climate change adaptation action. Next slide, please. This is the milestone of how we prepare this all related regulation to the national adaptation plan. We started since COP13, and then with our INDC. Before INDC, actually, this is before the Paris Agreement, and then under the NDC. And then next slide. Yeah. What we have done so far when we were in Madrid is we had launched NAP executive summary, and currently we have updated our NDC where the roadmap NDC adaptation has been included, and then also to underscore the formulation of 4 sector priority: water, food, health, coastal, and fisheries. Next slide. Yeah. Way forward, what we are going to proceed in general, that as the DG mentioned in his remark, that we are now under finalization of long-term strategy, low carbon and climate resilience 2050. And as we have concluded our process for updated NDC, we do hope that we could submit it by 2020 to the UNFCCC Secretariat. On mitigation, we have started the preparation to monitor the NDC implementation this year, including the challenges we face under the COVID-19 pandemic, and we will publish the report on how we could achieve the target of NDC 2030 in 2020, as we have obligation to report it annually to public at national level. And on adaptation, we will monitor the progress, and we will report it in 2021, even though we do not need to compare it with the target of its action as we have it in our mitigation target. I think that's my last slide. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Emma. That's already shared what Indonesia done for the implementation of NTC and NAP. And we go to the third speaker, but for all participants, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to ask something, you can fill in the link for the question and answer. Don't forget that to mention which speaker that you want to ask. Okay, for the third speaker, I invite Miss Lourdes Fitibi. He's teaching in international environmental politics in one of the top-ranking university in Philippines, and she is a member of National Panel of Technical Experts and advisory body of the Climate Change Commission of the Philippines, the Climate Science Advisor of the Institute of Climate and Resilient Cities, ICSC, a founding member of the Asia Climate Expert, ACE Network. Okay, I invite Ms. Lourdes to share with us about the implementation of NDC and NAP in Philippines. Please, Ms. Lourdes, time is yours.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Will somebody share the screen for me?
Sorry, Ms. Lourdes, don't forget that you have time just 10 minutes.
Yes,
okay.
I have very few slides.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be finishing it in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Like the previous speakers, I'm going to present the progress in the implementation of the NDC and NAP in the Philippines in terms of its status and challenges. When the Philippines ratified the Paris Agreement, it set a NDC before 2020. The NDC is supposed to support the country's national development objectives and priorities, and it is based on overarching policy frameworks, which are the Philippine Development Plan, the National Climate Change Action Plan, the National Framework Strategy on Climate Change, the Philippine Energy Plan, and what we call the Ambition 2040. We intend to transition our economy into a low carbon development path, but we are going to protect without compromise interests of the people. It's country driven. It's going to guide the country's long-term economic and investment for a climate resilient Philippines. Now, the second slide that I've got here shows you what we have in our submitted INDC in 2015. For our INDC in 2015, we were very brave in targeting 70% below business as usual by 2030. It was meant to be economy-wide, including LOLO-CF. And for the Philippine government, the Philippine NDC is primarily adaptation, incorporating mitigation as a co-benefit. Meaning, we will have both adaptation and mitigation, but we have adaptation for water and food security, for the built environment, for agriculture, and for forestry. However, our mitigation will be done in the sectors of agriculture, forestry, industries, waste management, energy, and transport. Next slide, please. Okay. This shows you the 6 sectors going to do or implement our targeted NDC. It is what we call AWIT-3, agriculture, waste management, industry, transport, forestry, and energy. For the next slide, I'll show you, next slide, please. Here are now the Philippine NDC process milestones. We submitted our INDC in 2050. We spent the next 2 years, 2016 and 2017, doing intergovernmental agency coordination and stakeholder consultation. What was very important for us was to do cost-benefit analysis of our mitigation options. Also, we were considering the policy development already. And one of the major milestones in 2017 was when we ratified the Paris Agreement. And for the Philippines, Paris Agreement officially entered into force towards the end of 2017. The next 3 years, 2018, can you go back to that slide? 2018, 2019, and 2020 were spent on roundtable discussions on NDC economic model analysis, validation, technical working groups and core group meetings, high-level meetings, meaning at the cabinet level, where we have a cabinet cluster on climate change. And then we also had to take a look at our greenhouse gas baseline settings. So we had greenhouse gas inventory workshops for all the sectors that are supposed the mitigation reduction for our NDC. And what was very important was we had to involve the legislative with consultations with both the Congress and the Senate. And what was supposed to be the main thing that we wanted to do was a sectoral NDC submission from these 6 sectors that we envisioned to do our NDC. Okay. Unfortunately, or because our sectors that are supposed to implement the NDC, we wanted a complete buy-in from all the sectors, we had to accede to what the request that they have more time to do the economic and the cost-benefit analysis, both in terms of what are the targets and how to get there. So we had to move the submission date of we first decided we were going to submit by March 2020. With the pandemic, this was shelved to, we are moving it to another date because we haven't received the NDC, the sectoral NDC submission for all the multi-agencies that they're supposed to be involved in doing the emissions reduction. So this is where we are. We still don't have the final targets. We still don't have the whole NDC as we have. I can't give you numbers because we need sectoral NDC submission from the heads of the national agencies that are supposed to be doing that. Next slide.
Excuse me,
Instead,
Ms. Lourdes,
slide, please.
The
Yes.
time just 1 minute more.
Yes, I'm almost there.
Okay.
In 2021, we are going to upgrade our National Framework Strategy for Climate Change and the National Climate Change Action Plan. And together with this, we're going to dovetail our NAP. Next slide, I'm going to present to you, next slide please, the core considerations for the NAP formulation. There's going to be, our core considerations are climate science informed planning and programming, technology-enabled sectors on how to go transition into a low-carbon development path, concrete quality assurance monitoring of our local action plans because we have local government unit hazards, exposure, and vulnerabilities as reflected in their local climate change action plan. And then also what is going to be very important is social protection, support, and risk transfer mechanism, effective risk communication for the various lens, and policy coherence. Last slide, next slide, please. We have the challenges in the implementation of our NDC and NAP. Firstly, we need to have champions at the national and local levels so that we can embed climate change in development planning. Then we need to have more comprehensive adaptation mitigation models, especially the economic analysis, because we want to know how do we get there, and is it possible for us to get there without compromising the interests of the people. And then we need to look at government structure and institutional arrangements. And harmonization, this is very important. We need to harmonize policies and the resources that we have so that we also need technologies, capacities, and resources for innovation for a transition to the low development path. And on top of that, we need to mobilize resources for implementation, and we need to set up a comprehensive tracking system. How we are going to do all of this, we are still not, we don't have a final thing on this because we still have to wait for the targets for each of the sectors. And the next slide is just to say thank you. Next slide, please. We have the takeaway messages. First, we need to have a climate science informed roadmap where we need to have a collaboration of experts in both in the climate science and the various disciplines. We need to have our frameworks and action plans and the NAP and the NDC unified. We need to have milestones of our action plans, and we need to have a roadmap that. Then the next takeaway is on mainstreaming. We need to increase sectoral and stakeholder consultations and collaborations at all levels so that there's going to be no mismatch from the national to the regional to the local levels. And my last message is, it is critical for countries to provide and do what they can commit while holding developing countries to their targets. Lastly, our NDC path is a story of courage and hope. Courage because we, despite the very small contribution to this global problem, we still have been decided and doing what we can. In fact, our INDC was a very brave 70% reduction from our level in 2010, because we were supposed to be using the 2010 greenhouse gas inventory. It's also a story of hope because I know the other countries in the region share our vulnerabilities, but we are probably seeing extremes that most of you countries do not see. Okay. Our extremes are not just in terms of increasing temperatures, but also in terms of the fact that we are the birthing place of tropical cyclones. Impacts due to this slow onset, or rather rapid onset, are compounded by the impacts of slow onset events, especially sea level rise, because we have the longest coastlines within the region. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Ms. Ardis. I think that's so many things that you want to share here, of course, because so many things that we need to prepare for the implementation. But we still have one more speakers here. Don't forget.
It's fine. I understand.
Okay, for all participants, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that if you have question, you can fulfill the question and answer link that's already shared in chat box. And then the fourth speaker is Prof. Salimul Hope. I will show you the CV of him. He is the Director of International Center of Climate Change and Development, ICCCAD, at the Independent University, Bangladesh, EUB, since 2009, Senior Fellow at the International Institute of Environment and Development, IIED, in London, and a lead author of the chapter of Adaptation Sustainable Development in the third assessment report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, one of the coordinating lead author of the interrelationship between adaptation and mitigation in the IPCC's fourth assessment report 2007. He has been named among the world's 100 most influential people in the climate policy for 2019 for making a positive difference by the political London-based public servant networking groups. And Professor Salimul Hope will display to all of us about the progress of implementation of NDC and NP in Bangladesh. Okay, please, Prof. Salimul Hope, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nanika, and thank you to the organizers, APIK, for inviting me to speak at this very important event, and I'm very pleased. What I'm going to do is tell you, I don't have any slides, so I'll just speak for my allotted time. And I'll tell you a little bit about the status of the NDC and the NAP in Bangladesh, but also a bit more about the broader implications of integrating and mainstreaming both mitigation as well as adaptation into national planning, which in my view is the most important part. It's not doing a NAP or an NDC, which we take to the UNFCCC and we present to them. That is important is what do we do at home and how do we implement them at home, which is the more important. So on the NDC, Bangladesh, like other countries, did a intended NDC, the INDC, a few years ago, where we projected a potential reduction over business as usual of 5% on our own of emissions of greenhouse gases, and potentially up to 15% if we got additional resources and technology. That was the old INDC of some years ago before the Paris Agreement. That NDC is now being revised. It's being worked on. We don't have results out of it yet, probably by the end of this year or early next year. Certainly before COP26, we will have some new results of the new NDC. On the National Adaptation Plan as well, the NAP of the UN Framework Convention, Bangladesh has only just started the NAP. However, Bangladesh has a long history of working on adaptation. We have done, as one of the least developed countries, the National Adaptation Programs of Action, NAPAs, which preceded the NAPs, which was only for the least developed countries. And more importantly, in the context of our own country, we have done a national, with our own resources and our own experts, Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan. This was done 10 years ago in 2009. And it has 6 different sectors, and it is primarily on adaptation, but it also includes one sector on mitigation. Even though we are not a big emitter of greenhouse gases, we decided that we should do what we can to reduce our emissions of greenhouse gases. And since that was produced 10 years ago, the government of Bangladesh has been allocating financial resources every year. We have set up a climate change trust fund, and every year the finance minister in the national budget has been allocating approximately $100 million equivalent in Bangladesh currency to implementing the different actions that were identified under that plan. There were more than 40 different actions under the 6 sectors that were identified. And over these 10 years now, every year, $100 million has been allocated, hundreds of projects across many different government ministries, as well as 10% of the money was allocated for local level actions through civil society organizations. So many hundreds, probably 600 or 700 activities and projects have been funded over the last 10 years, which has enabled Bangladesh to go up a very significant learning curve in the practice of what do we mean by adaptation and how do we implement adaptation. So where we are now, as we develop our NAP and as we develop our NDCs, is to build on that experience and incorporate it and mainstream it into national development. That is by far the most important thing that we think is important, not just producing a report that we take to the UNFCCC, as I said, but making sure that we are doing the right things on the ground, both on mitigation as well as on adaptation. And I'll mention a few things as examples. On mitigation, Bangladesh has one of the, I think, in fact, the largest solar home system in the world, more than 5 million households, which are providing solar energy for about 20 million rural poor people households in the country. This is a major effort, is a public-private partnership between the government and private companies who are providing these solar home systems for these different households who are now able to access solar energy. On the adaptation side, in Bangladesh, one of the biggest impacts and the most high hotspot in terms of impacts is the low-lying coastal area. We are a delta of three of the major rivers of the world, the Ganges, the Brahmaputra, and the Meghna. We have a very large low-lying coastal area where tens of millions of people live, rice growing, which is already seeing salinity because of sea level rise. And we are also prone to cyclones as well, like the Philippines that we heard about. And so the efforts to try to reduce the impacts of cyclones, Bangladesh has one of the best early warning systems and cyclone shelter systems. We just had a super cyclone a few months ago, which in past decades, when we had super cyclones, they killed tens of thousands of people. They don't anymore. Now we can evacuate more than 2.5 million people. They go to the shelters, they sit it out. The cyclone still makes a lot of damage. It kills a lot of plants and animals and does a lot of devastation, but it doesn't kill people anymore. Only a handful of people lost their lives because more than 2 million people were able to take shelter and sit it out. And the people that lost their lives are mostly fishermen who are out at sea and don't get back to land in time. Anybody who's on land, more or less, is able to protect themselves. And it's one of the best warning systems anywhere in the world. On the longer term impacts of climate change, particularly sea level rise and salinity, many parts of the low-lying coastal area are becoming extremely saline, and the traditional varieties of rice can no longer survive. So our Rice Research Institute, our rice research scientists have come up with at least a dozen different saline tolerant varieties of rice, which are now being provided to the farmers. They cost more, but the farmers are willing to pay more because they survive and they can produce production. And millions of farmers and millions of hectares are using these varieties of rice that are adapted to saline conditions. But there is a limit to how much they can adapt. The salinity is increasing faster than our plant breeders can produce varieties. And so at some point, rice cannot be grown anymore. Then they switch to crab growing or shrimp farming, which can be done with saline water. These have ecosystem repercussions and equity repercussions. But nevertheless, we need to be constantly adapting to the changing situation going forward. So let me.
Prof.
Yes, I'll close.
I just remind.
I'll close.
1 minute.
I'll close.
Yes. Okay.
So last minute, what I want to share is the opportunity I feel through this conference for us to collaborate and share knowledge and information on what we are doing, both on the mitigation side as well as on the adaptation side, and on the mainstreaming side of how do we make it actually happen on the ground. And we in Bangladesh, we have a network of universities like APIK. We have about 50 plus institutions. We call it Goveshona. Goveshona is a Bangla word for research. And every January, we have a big national conference. Next year, because of the pandemic, we are going to do this as a virtual conference like you are doing today in APIK. It's from the 21st to the 24th of January, 2021. So I would like to invite all the speakers who spoke today and others who may be interested to participate. We will have a session the time zone will be arranged to get participants from Southeast Asia, from your region of the world, and we would welcome participation from you. I'll share more information with Danica and through her with all of you. So let me close there and hope that we can continue this dialogue and sharing of knowledge and information on how to tackle climate change, both mitigation as well as adaptation. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Salimul. I think that's mainstreaming the programs of NDC and AP that will be important. And then from the experience of Bangladesh about solar energy for household and early warning system for the cyclone, that's very, very good experience that can serve for all country. I think that will be very good one. Okay, I think that we already finished for all speakers for this session. Now we have around 10 minutes maybe, or 12 minutes to question and answer. And then don't forget to put your question in the chat box, and don't then say you will ask for whom. I have a question here to Bu Emma. This is from Gusti Ayu Komang Sri Mahayuni. She asked to Bu Emma. Yeah, in the document, first NDC Indonesia says that Indonesia applies an integrated national transparency framework through national register system for mitigation, adaptation, and means of the implementation, both from national international source, national GSTs, inventory system, MRV system for mitigation, including RDD, and safeguard information system for RIDD, and information system for vulnerability, CIDIC, and joint adaptation and mitigation at the village level, PROCLIM. I think that's the question is I would like to ask, how extensive is PROCLIM program implemented in Indonesia? What percentage of village in Indonesia have implemented this PROCLIM program? And if that already have some evaluation result with the PROCLIM program that has shown significant result in the reducing greenhouse gases emission. This is about the PROCLIM program, Ibu Emma. I think that we just answer the question first and then we proceed for the next question. Please, Ibu Emma.
Thank you very much for the question, Ibu Gusti Ayu Komang. With regard to PROCLIM or climate village, we have around 2,000 villages that have been proposed and also have been endorsed as PROCLIM or climate village from since a couple years ago, since around 5 years ago. It mentioned as a joint adaptation mitigation because it has two components of actions in a village level, adaptation and mitigation. With regard to the mitigation, actually we have difficulties in collecting activity data at the climate at the village level because we have problem in data the activity data that reported or written by villagers or some for example NGOs or local governments. And the other problem is it's very difficult to calculate GHG emission reduction if we use IPCC guidelines. That's very complicated. That's a really science-based approach. So that's why the government now has developed a very simplified system using Android system with your gadget to that can easily collect the data, just to input the activity data, and then the system will calculate how much GHG emission could be reduced for its mitigation action. That has been finalized this year. Hopefully next year this application could be widely used in calculating GHG emission reduction in villages that have been proposed as PROCLIM. Up to now, we have only calculated only around 780 location of PROCLIM, but again, the quality of the data it's need to be improved, and also of course this is could not meet very tight methodology system under the IPCC. Also, this is a part of the contribution at a village level that have been dedicated by community that we would like to acknowledge. And then at this moment, only Ministry of Environment and Forestry calculates this GHG emission reduction. So we next year we would like to build the capacity for this calculation to subnational and also district level. Thank you, Bu Yunita.
Thank you, Bu Emma. I have another question here. This is from for Miss Lourdes, and this is from Abigail. How we will achieve low carbon for our energy use here in the Philippines if coal mining companies are still being approved to operate, especially in Negros area and the nomad communities. This is about coal, Miss Lourdes. That so many coal mining companies in Philippines. What about that, please, Miss Lourdes? Sorry, you need to unmute. Miss Lourdes, yes, thank you.
I am very sorry. I can't give a very definitive answer to the person who's asking me this question. We have always been asking the Department of Energy how they have not revised their energy plan. There still is a big portion coming from coal, and the government seemed to have approved the establishment or building of coal plants in the Philippines. We need to really to advocate for the abolishment or coal mines or coal projects not to be anymore in the light of DC. We have always been asking them, and the answer they've always been giving us is that it's still part of the energy security plan. So I am very sorry for that. I am just here to present what are the progress, what is the status of the NDC. The policies at the highest level is something that we need really it needs some advocacy from groups, in particular from those who do not want more coal plants in the Philippines. We don't know that the government has approved some more coal plants to be built. I am just hopeful that with advocacy from people who are for the environment, and also with the upcoming finalization of our NDC, perhaps I'm hoping against hope that the coal plants that have been approved will probably lessen or diminish, if not completely, really, if not that the national government completely stops building these coal plants anymore. Renewable energy is really being developed so fast. We are seeing a lot of renewable energy projects in the Philippines. So perhaps we will no longer need our plants to be built in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Lourdes. That's actually so many questions. Let's go to the question and answering. But I think that we have just one more question that can discuss here. But this is question for Bu Emma. But please just give the short answer, maybe Bu Emma. The question that's about the government deal with the forest fires that happen every year, especially El Nino condition. That's could contribute to greenhouse gases. That's about the forest fire, Bu Emma. Please answer in a short answer, Bu.
Yeah,
yes.
Thank you very much. I think the government does the best effort every year, and we prefer to develop the capacity to prevent, so not to control, but to prevent before the forest fire is occurred. This year it's better than the previous year. So I think the government started every year before next year is coming. For example, we are preparing for next year a forest fire by preparation end of this year. So we consulted every stakeholder, and then we we have discussion and coordination at national and subnational level. And the most important thing is how we could bring all those people together, because it's also related to the economic activity by community. So it's very important that we give roles to community. Thank you, Bu. For
Yes.
prevention, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Bu Emma. I think that we try hard to better and better in terms of in face the forest fire. Yeah, in Indonesia we always do. I'm sorry for all of you, all participants. I cannot proceed for all questions here. This is already at the end of the first session. But before we go to the next session, I think we can make a photo together here. Please, can you please to open your camera? It's better if we make a photo with open the camera, I think. Okay, please, for the committee, the participant already in the position here. Yeah, you can make a visual photo several times, I think, because not just in one. Okay, I think that's the committee still make a photo for us, all of us. Yes, done. Okay, thank you. I think this is the end of the first sessions. Thank you very much for all speakers, and thank you very much for the participation from participants. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end, I just want to apologize along this session. If I have some mistake, please apologize me. And for the next session, I will give the moderate for the next session to Bu Lia. Please, Bu Lia, to proceed for the session 2. Thank you for me, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ibu Yunita. That's a wonderful sharing. And then thank you for the speakers for the great insight. I learned a lot. And then now, I guess, well, in 2 minutes, we are about to begin this second session. But I guess we just can go on, because I think we have all the speakers with us today. And hopefully the participants will stay and more to come to this second session. So again, I would like to say good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and speakers from wherever you are, because this is, I think, the silver lining of this pandemic, that now we're accustomed to this, so we can have speakers from all over the world. I'm Lia Zakia from the Institute for Sustainable Earth and Resources, Universitas Indonesia. I'm also a climate reality leader at the Climate Reality Project, and I will be moderating this session. I would like to congratulate APIK Indonesia Network, which has successfully organized this third international conference, Indonesia Expert Network on Climate Change and Forestry, or APIK Indonesia Network, we call it in Indonesia. And so, ladies and gentlemen, together with our distinguished speakers and experts, we will discuss about capacity building for a more ambitious actions or strategy. So this is the event poster. I think we have all of the speakers already here with us today, so that's a great news. And then I would like to proceed to the housekeeping rules, so that we can enjoy this session and we can have a meaningful discussion. So for the participants, you can write down your question as soon as you have one or some in mind through the link that has been provided by the committee. You don't have to wait until the end of the session. As long as you have one, you just write it down, and please keep it short so that we can accommodate more questions. As I know it might be impossible to answer all of the questions that are coming in through, but we will do our best. So each speaker will have 10 minutes max, so that we can have more time for discussion. I know 10 minutes is super fast approaching, but we do want to provide more time for the discussion so that it can be more interactive to participants as well. I will help the speaker with a reminder when you have 2 minutes left. So don't be surprised later when I suddenly just like pop up and then remind you that you have 2 minutes left. Ladies and gentlemen, not all developing countries have sufficient capacities to deal with many of the challenges brought by climate change. Therefore, building the capacity of these countries to effectively address climate change is very important, especially considering that the windows of action is rapidly closing to keep our climate target. The importance of this capacity building strategy and program has long been recognized by the negotiating parties in the UNFCCC process through the convention, for example, in 1992, its Kyoto Protocol 1997, and most recently, the Paris Agreement in 2015, which has its own working group called the Paris Committee on Capacity Building. In the time that we have today, we will try to focus our discussion on several items. First, what are the issues of capacity building and how to build more ambitious strategy of the developing countries parties in the COP26, with that backdrop, and what we can do about it. And then we would like to hear about the work of the Paris Committee for Capacity Building for addressing capacity gaps, that's important, where are the gaps, and needs in developing country parties. And then the third one, we would like to learn about the national context that influence the level of ambition in developing countries. And then we will proceed to talk about the role of climate-related networks, this is important, in developing countries, and also the challenges. And last, we will hear about the role of some institutions like Asia Climate Expert, ACE, for strengthening regional climate action. But before that, we have with us today the COP26 Regional Ambassador to the Asia Pacific and South Asia, His Excellency Ken O'Flaherty. His Excellency, it's an honor for us that you are here with us. You're here with us, right? Answer your name.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, great. It would be great, His Excellency, if you can share with us with COP26 in our site next year, what are the opportunities for the world to come together and commit to urgent climate action in the midst of this pandemic? So His Excellency, the time is yours. You have maximum 10 minutes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Leanne. Thank you very much to APIK Indonesia Network for the opportunity to speak to you today. As you've said, leaders will be coming together in Glasgow in November next year. And the UK presidency's objective is that leaders come together to build strong climate action at that point and show demonstrable progress towards meeting our Paris targets. For us, this is a top priority for the year ahead. We have reinforced our network. We have appointed ambassadors such as myself to promote action worldwide. And we're working hard to engage governments, business, and civil society worldwide to get behind strong climate action between now and November next year. The challenge for us and for the world is very clear. Without urgent action, we won't keep climate change to 2 degrees Celsius or even 1.5 degrees Celsius. And if we fail to do that, the consequences for populations worldwide will be catastrophic. We cannot tackle climate change without also tackling environmental destruction, which I know is an important theme of this event. For example, in addition to providing livelihoods for over 1 billion people worldwide and a home to over 80% of the world's terrestrial biodiversity, deforestation is the second biggest source of emissions worldwide. That's why nature-based solutions is one of the 5 key campaigns that we are running as COP26 presidency, and it's a key focus of our work. The campaign is particularly relevant to the Southeast Asia region, of course, and particularly in Indonesia, which has the 3rd largest area of tropical forest in the world. Now, in Indonesia, as elsewhere, governments are, of course, working very hard now to respond to the challenges of the COVID-19 crisis. And that's inevitably had some initial impact on their ability to engage on issues such as climate change. But we in the UK also believe that we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity now to build back better. We strongly support the message from the UN Secretary General that governments should take the opportunity of the economic stimulus packages now being worked up to deliver a clean, green, and resilient recovery. The packages being worked up should take into consideration both nature-based solutions and environmental protection measures, as well, of course, as investing strongly in renewable energy and accelerating the progress away from fossil fuels. At the end of last year, the UK announced that we were doubling our international climate finance to £11.6 billion, and we have stated that we will be spending much of that funding on nature-based solutions. And we're encouraging other donors both to meet our commitment in terms of ambition on climate finance overall, and also to be supporting moves around nature-based solutions. We need protection and restoration of nature to be a core priority globally. I'm happy to say that the UK has been working closely with Indonesia for more than a decade on a wide range of climate change issues. We have provided support for Indonesia's Build Back Better agenda, which shows the potential for a clean, inclusive, resilient recovery, integrating low carbon development modeling into its medium-term development plan. We are also continuing to work closely with Indonesia on actions to underpin an ambitious NDC. We have supported the Planning Ministry to publish its Low Carbon Development Initiative report. That includes a scenario to reduce emissions beyond Paris Agreement commitments. It also lays out robust evidence that rapid economic growth can be achieved together with rapidly declining carbon emissions, which is a significant breakthrough in Indonesia. We have also seen some successes in recent years on the issue of illegal timber. A lot of that has been the consequence of many years of cooperation and partnership between many countries coming together excuse me, to tackle the illegal trade and promote the responsible and sustainable alternative and to protect forests. Indonesia has already shown great leadership as the first country in the world to secure forest law enforcement, governance and trade licensing, or FLEGT, and through its impressive action on tackling illegal logging. We want, as the UK COP26 presidency, to build on that work and bring consumer and producer countries together at COP26 to address the market drivers of deforestation. As COP26 president, we intend to convene a dialogue on sustainable land use and trade in forest and agricultural commodities. The aim will be for countries to take collaborative actions that promote trade and development while also protecting our forests. This will be a government-to-government dialogue supported by wider multi-stakeholder consultations. The dialogue will aim to deepen collaboration between producer and consumer countries, and we believe that this can be best achieved through joint leadership between them both. The UK is very keen to collaborate closely with Indonesia and other producer and consumer countries on this dialogue, recognizing that the UK and Indonesia have a long-standing and positive partnership on forests and land use. We very much hope that this dialogue will be an opportunity for Indonesia to build on existing success and play a key role on developing the dialogue agenda and driving forwards momentum. Finally, I'd like to say that despite the great progress has been made, the world is not today on track to meet the commitments of the Paris Agreement. That's why the next 5 years are critical for enhanced climate action. That's especially true for Indonesia, which is extremely vulnerable to the effects of climate change. We believe that we must all work together to overcome this challenge. And that's why the UK's COP26 presidency stresses international collaboration to deliver a green and resilient recovery, with a strong focus on the importance of nature-based solutions and also on the clean, resilient recovery. We are determined to support our ASEAN partners in their energy transition, moving away from coal and towards renewable energies, which are of course now cheaper than coal in every single ASEAN state. And I look forward to working closely with Indonesia to achieve an ambitious shared outcome at COP26. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Ambassador. And if I can touch upon some of the things that you have mentioned, that the challenges without urgent action, we won't be able to keep our target to keep the increase of temperature under 2 degrees Celsius, let alone 1.5. And you mentioned that trust is important to promote actions worldwide, engaging multi-stakeholders, government, business, and civil society. And Indonesia and the UK has been in partnership for more than a decade. And then now for example, in the effort to build back better, trying to reinforce the clean, green, inclusive, and resilience action. And the UK has supported Indonesia in LCDI, for example, and then showed that rapid economic growth can go hand in hand with climate actions. And the ambassador also said that the world is not on track to meet our targets. So we really need to get us going. So I guess that's a really nice setting the tone for our discussion until 4 p.m. Indonesia time. Maybe in your time, it's still in the morning. I hope you already have your coffee. But thank you very much for your insights. And I hope you can stay for the discussion later, and then maybe later in COP26. Thank you, the ambassador.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And then, ladies and gentlemen, we can also discuss about the focus of our discussion today. And then we have Mr. Carl McCallenden, the UK's capacity building lead, the COP26 presidency team, that will talk about what are the issues of capacity building and then how to increase the ambition of the developing country parties in the backdrop of COP26. Mr. Carl McCallenden, the time is yours for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Leah. And hello, Ken. Good morning. I haven't had my coffee yet, but I'm wide awake. Yeah, so good afternoon, or good morning, and good afternoon to those in Asia, and good evening to those who are elsewhere. I'd just like to start off by saying I hope everyone is fine, that you're doing well, that your loved ones are doing well, and that you're safe and well during this really challenging time. I'd like to thank APIK for the invitation to speak at this virtual event today. It's been an interesting discussion. And I'm really pleased to provide some thoughts on capacity building in relation to COP26. In doing that, I just wanted to touch on 4 key points, which are very important issues. The importance of continuing the momentum throughout 2020 and 2021, the importance of capacity building to drive forward climate action, but also the role of nature-based solutions in doing so. But crucially, which is probably very important to this audience also, is the role of climate science, academia, and wider civil society in doing that. So just on the importance of continuing the momentum towards climate action, as everyone here will know, 2020 has brought a lot of new challenges for all of us. And we understand the decision of the COP Euro to postpone COP26 until November 2021. We remain committed to doing everything possible to maintain the momentum until that time and to minimize any disruption that might be felt. Really importantly, we recognize that the postponement of COP26 doesn't mean that there is a reduction in any urgency, and that we understand that there will be a need to advance a lot of the technical work that needs to be done within the negotiations themselves, and the necessity for that process to be reorganized in a way. As the incoming presidency, we've been working with Chile, who's the current president, but also the chairs of the subsidiary bodies, the UNFCCC Secretariat, but also with our partners, Italy, in looking at how that can be done and consulting parties in that process. Aside from the negotiations, many countries and stakeholders have been working to maintain the momentum throughout this time, which is really great to see. A really good example, for example, was the IOSIS Placencia Forum earlier this year, which really was a loud call for increased action and ambition. Last week, we've seen at the UN General Assembly and New York Climate Week, a variety of commitments and announcements were made, particularly the UK's own announcement to have a 2020 ambition summit later this year in December. And in order to mark the 5th anniversary of the Paris Agreement and with a focus on ambition. Yesterday, you might have seen the Leaders' Pledge for Nature, where political leaders from around 64 countries, including from all regions, but also including the European Union, who were participating in the UN Summit for Biodiversity, committed to reversing biodiversity loss by 2030. So lots of key things there to maintain that momentum, and we hope to see more in the coming months. On capacity building itself, it's really important that capacity building will drive forward that action. And just to acknowledge the great work that's being done by the Paris Committee on Capacity Building, which I'm sure Marzena will talk about a little later. But we really see effective capacity building as really essential to helping parties with climate action. And we're pleased to see that importance has now been reflected in the Paris Agreement and all of its related decisions. Particularly, the parties have decided at COP25 that the PCCB will now serve the Paris Agreement. We know that many countries during this time are currently very busy working on their NDCs, on their NAPs, on their long-term strategies, and capacity building is really important for those processes and really essential. So this event is really timely in that regard. Using NDCs as an example, we know that many countries, donors, and delivery partners have been working together to ensure the capacity building is being progressed. Organizations like UNDP Climate Promise, the NDC Partnership, and others are really good examples of that. But we also recognize that the work doesn't stop there in the preparation of these commitments, that we need to step up and help developing countries with these really ambitious plans and to be able to put them into action. So recently, the UK provided another 168 million euro towards the NAMA facility's new ambition initiative, which will help and will really help support some of these projects in developing countries. And the UK's contribution to that new initiative is £62 million. So just to say on the nature-based solutions itself, at COP26, as Ken had said, we're really keen to drive forward some of that transition towards land use and to unblock the potential for nature-based solutions while tackling biodiversity in the process. Ecosystems are really important, helping people and in helping people to adapt to some of the impacts of climate change. Ecosystems can also help directly reduce carbon emissions, mitigating climate change, and act as natural carbon sinks, which are very important. But also, climate change is already having an impact on nature, and from genes to ecosystems, which is affecting global food and nutrition security and the livelihoods of many millions, some of which are the world's most poorest countries, which are highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. So just on the last point, but lastly, but by all means not least, science, climate science, academia, and wider civil society play a really important role in this. Ambition, mitigation, and adaptation is informed by the best available science and guiding principles for our strategy. Science points to the need for dramatic change and also the urgent need for action. And we can see that there is a need to act quickly. Scientific data really sets out our progress against the Paris Agreement targets, which Ken had mentioned earlier, which we're not currently on track to meet. And they have been the driving force for some ambitious global action in reducing emissions. It's really important that we do listen to the science, that we understand the science, but also that we act on it on the basis of that, on the evidence that it provides. And the UK presidency has really been championing this approach throughout our presidency, our incoming presidency. As well as projections on future warnings and impacts, science also informs some of the solutions that might be helpful in combating this, and some of the co-benefits to wider society, such as health, jobs, growth, energy, food security, poverty alleviation, but also technological developments. But importantly, some of the communication of this scientific evidence outside of the UNFCCC is also really vital, which all of you will play a really key role in. And we have been working with academic communities in the UK, but also internationally, in order to communicate that science, in looking at communicating the co-benefits for reducing those emissions and what net zero really means for other countries, communities, and regions. Importantly, science shows us that the effects of the changing climate disproportionately affects women, the poor, and the most vulnerable. And this data should be at the heart of any response that supports a fairer and more inclusive world. So very quickly, we strongly encourage universities and all of you working in that area to work together to raise awareness on science, climate climate science data, the implications, but also the rationale for transition towards net zero across all of society and civil society, with business, but also with youth. And the UK is keen to work with global academic networks in doing that. And we have been doing so through our 5 campaigns, which Ken had mentioned earlier: nature, adaptation, resilience, energy transition, finance, and transport. We know that academic communities can really build recognition of some of the great opportunities for net zero and for a more resilient economy. But we also know that the world needs your expertise at this time. And there exists a need for researchers to lead by example in supporting institutions to reach net zero emissions in their operations. And the academic community is a really unique position in that it's trusted. It's a form of trusted apolitical entity, which can really bring a lot of value to the discussions. And just very, my last point is on civil society and the importance of civil society in this, where for an all of society approach is essential to the transition of a zero carbon resilient economy, particularly as we recover from COVID-19. With governments, business, investors, cities, regions, civil society, youth, and Indigenous people, and those of all faiths must make net zero commitments and take immediate action to support a green and resilient economy, particularly for those that are most vulnerable sections of society. So through our presidency role, we are committed to driving progress in all of the mandates and securing outcomes that respect and reflect the interests of all parties, including those that are the poorest and most vulnerable to climate impacts. And we wish to work closely with civil society to amplify the voices of these groups and to deliver on a truly inclusive COP. So I'll stop there, and just again to thank APIK for inviting me to join this meeting today and for the opportunity to speak. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stay for the Q&A session, but I think Ken will be able to cover from a UK perspective. And just thanks again, and have a nice morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world today. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Carl. That's actually some great points that you have mentioned. Especially, we need to hear that the UK government is maintaining the momentum, keep working hard, and no reduction in any urgency. That's very important signals that need to be sent out. And about capacity building to drive forward the action, and the Paris Committee for Capacity Building will share their work after this. And then focus on nature-based solutions, the same with what the Ambassador Ken has mentioned, also to tackle the biodiversity aspect of it. And climate science is important. A lot of academia right now here, and also the wider society. Scientific data not only to be listened to, but also to act on it. And then also your last point is about communicating the science and then engaging the non-state actors and civil society sectors, to including youth, to try to reach the net zero emission. That's the ambition that we are aiming to, and then we have to achieve that one. Thank you, Carl. And then next, I would like to invite our next speaker, which is Dr. Marzena Kodor. I'm not really sure whether I pronounced it correctly. Please apology if I do not. And she will talk about the work of Paris Committee on Capacity Building for addressing capacity gaps and needs in developing country parties. Dr. Marzena Kodor, the time is yours. Dr. Marzena, are you here with us? Yes, but yeah. Yeah, we still can't hear you. Your mic is actually already unmute. I'm not really sure what happened. Maybe the committee could help her troubleshoot. Yeah, we can't really hear you. All right. Maybe what if while waiting for Dr. Marzina to fix the problem, the audio problem, we can go on to the next speaker if Ibu Nur is ready. Yeah, I guess one of the committee, the organizer, will try to help you fix the condition. Maybe you need to log out and then log in again. And then now I would like to invite Dr. Nur Masripatin, the Senior Advisor for Climate Change and International Convention from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. And Ibu, if you are here, how are you, Ibu?
I'm fine, Ibu Lia.
Yes, Ibu Nur. So if you'd like to share with us about what are the national contexts for us to have a more ambitious strategy or plan in developing countries, Bu. Monggo, Ibu.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Lia. First of all, I would like to thank to APIK for giving me opportunity to be part of this panel. I would like to start with echoing what UK ambassador mentioned, that we are not in the right track yet. We know that we all at the same platform, but our collective pledges is not sufficient to make our future generation safe enough. 2020 is the year that is critical for all parties, because this is the time for all parties to submit their updated NDC as well as long-term strategy on low carbon development. At the same time, global community also facing health, economic, and social crisis due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Many developing countries facing double, even triple challenges, not only because of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, but also climate change and biodiversity crisis, as well as land degradation crisis. A climate crisis, we face the risk if the Paris Agreement goal is not achieved. On biodiversity crisis, biodiversity has decreased to below the safe level. We face the risk if the target of living in harmony with nature by 2050 is not achieved. Land degradation crisis. About 25% of the global lands are under degradation condition. We face the risk of about 3.2 billion people will be affected in 2050 if the target of net zero land degradation is not achieved. While developed countries need to take the lead in increasing ambition, developing countries need also to show the best effort in tackling the impact of climate change, both through mitigation and adaptation in the context of our national circumstances, our national development priorities and objectives. Paris Agreement recognized the need for capacity building for developing countries, not only for implementing their NDC, but also in implementing the transparency framework under the agreement. Developing countries also need to enhance their capacity to be able to transform to low carbon development pathways. COVID-19 pandemic, which has resulted in health, economic, and social crisis, has forced global communities for a better recovery, economically, socially, and environmentally. We know that COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way of our life in many aspects. The post-pandemic recovery could not be and should not be the same as before this pandemic hits us. Transformational change are needed to progress towards the new way of life. Some elements of our transformational change are identified here. A digital transformation. We should take lesson from the COVID pandemic era to advance digital way of life in all aspects. Innovation also in all aspects. More anticipation to the future is changing narrative to see a climate not only the burden, but also the opportunity to growth. Also ensuring capital investment greener through various measures. What are the implications of this aspect? Capacity building are paramount for developing countries. The diversity of capacity of developing countries will need flexibility and also consideration on country-specific needs. Many initiatives on capacity building within and outside university UNFCCC arrangement need to be carried out in synergy. I would like to congratulate the PCCB for the efforts so far, as we need capacity building. Also, there is transformational change. On climate action, technological solution and nature-based solution have continuously been explored to shaping emission reduction commitment under the NDC and other international pledges. Depending on the national circumstances and priorities, which in many cases are reflected in their NDC, each country may explore the most feasible solution for their context, including opportunity for international collaboration for increased ambition. In the last point, I would like to share also for Indonesia, increased ambition will need to work on both nature-based solutions as well as technological solutions. As archipelago country and the home of major parts of global mangrove and peatlands, Indonesia has a lot of opportunity to consider the importance of linking mitigation and adaptation through nature-based solutions. As the party of the Rio Convention, UNFCCC, UNCBD, and UNCCD, and the country with forestry and other land uses to be the biggest sector contributing to NDC, Indonesia is very much looking forward to contribute to strengthening of synergy effort of the convention. I would like to close with the statement that there won't be increased ambition without enhanced capacity building. Thank you, Ibu Lia.
Thank you very much, Ibu Nur. That was very insightful of you. And then you've talked about, again, climate change crisis, climate crisis, biodiversity crisis, and environmental degradation crisis. You know, we have so many multiple crises at the moment. And, you know, we need to take lessons from the pandemic, Ibu Nur said. For example, by using the digital approach to be more efficient and effective in the way we are doing things. And then also, this is my favorite, changing the narrative. I really like that one, but not only seeing the climate change as a burden, but also as opportunities. I guess this is important to be communicated to youth, for example, so that, you know, they are more excited to do climate action because, you know, they will have more exciting future. And then also, Ibu Nur touched upon the importance of taking the national context to make the most feasible solutions for the ambition. And then for Indonesia, for example, increased ambition can be both derived from nature-based and technological solutions. And I like the last one as well. There wouldn't be increased ambition without enhanced capacity. Thank you, Ibu Nur. Later we will join with us again for the question and answer. I would like to try to invite Dr. Marzina, if she's already here, and then if her audio is already fixed. Yeah, you could try again to unmute the mic and... Oh, not yet. Oh no, what happened? Maybe what we can do, maybe call via WhatsApp or other digital, and then just, you know, just put the voice on the speaker. Maybe the organizer can help do that. And while waiting for that happen, I'm sorry, we're trying our best to fix this one, but we are maybe can give 10 minutes time to fix that. Hopefully it is successful. I would continue on to our next speaker, which is Bapak Sabarudin, PhD, the Vice Chairman of APIK Indonesian Network. Hi, Pa, I saw you there. How are you?
Good, fine, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good too, Pa. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then, Sabar, it would be great if you can share with us the role and challenges of climate-related networks in developing countries. Monggo, Pak, 10 minutes is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu. Allow me to share my screen. I hope it works and can everybody. Does it work?
Yes, it works.
Okay, it's good. Today, since early in the morning, we talk about climate change and all over the world, not only in developing countries, but also in developed countries. And it shows clearly that climate change is multifaceted. It means that we need to work together. All stakeholders should be actively involved and should be actively contribute. Today, I'm going to share with us all the experience of APIK Indonesia, how we establish such this network with the main purpose is to enhance the collaboration among parties, not only in Indonesia but also in some part of the world. I will not talk about the upper part. It has been discussed very deeply during the morning and this afternoon, and I will focus on this the below part of this PowerPoint. And this is how the timeline of the establishment of APIK Indonesia network. We started the plan, we arranged, we did some meetings with Ibu Nur and with other parties since at the beginning of 2013. And finally, we come to a conclusion and we agreed on the establishment of what we call it APIK Indonesia network. This is more or less a simplification of how it looks like, the organizational structure of APIK Indonesia Network. There is a advisory board, and there are, as mentioned this morning, we have 7 regions, and we have underneath is we have all provinces all over Indonesia, and our member was 500 total member with more than 100 institutions. And this organization, our dream is to be a knowledge center and information bridge in climate change and forestry in Indonesia, with, of course, with all related issues in these 2 pools, climate change and forestry in Indonesia. And we have 3 missions. We support the implementation of education, research, community services for low emission development, and how to build resilience to climate change. And also we collect and develop some scientific basis to support, as mentioned this just now, that scientific information is one of very important cores that we have to build and we have to accumulate to enhance all effort, both in mitigation and also in adaptations. And then the third one is we try to provide scientific advice to all multi-stakeholder, mainly government, how to respond and how to handle all problems related to climate change and also forestry. And we also develop some action plans. Of course, all these action plans are some of it are running well, some still need further work. and some are need also need some further collaboration with other parties. And this is the summary of the following slide will show us some activities that have been carried out by APIK network of Indonesia since its establishment. We every year organize some international and also both national and international events. And today is one of I think the important contribution of APIK network to not only to Indonesia but also to other countries in over the world. And this is how we built we organize the international event, national and regional event, and also we are also invited by some stakeholders to give some opinion on various aspects of waste management, how to handle greenhouse emissions, and how to handle forest fire, for example, especially those related with pit fires. As mentioned by Ibu Nur just now, that Indonesia is pit fires is always happening almost every year. Just the scale is different. Sometimes it's big and sometimes it's small, and then sometimes it's very devastating, and sometimes it's not really. And this is we also build some all the accumulation of knowledge that we have built. We try to share to all stakeholders to our websites, and this website also is prepared in bilingual, Indonesian and English, so everybody can access it from all over the world. And we also welcome everybody if they are interested in joining us to share some informations. And this is as I mentioned just now that this is last year 2019. We also organized an international conference about the same date. Usually we did it in September or October every year. And and this year we also did the same thing. And also we won. Actually, we won APIK network is not only recognized and connected with all organizations in Indonesia, but we also want to establish collaboration with partners in Asia, for example, in West and in Southeast Asia. And this is last year. There are three of us. This is Pak Mahawan, and this Pak Gusti, and this me. We attended Asia Pacific Climate Week in Bangkok, and then we meet Mr. Pelino, Mr. Rodriguez, and other partners from some Southeast Asian countries. And at the end of the meeting, we talked about how about if we establish a connection between all organizations in Southeast Asia. And we at that time we came to an agreement that we call the network is ACE, is Asia Climate Expert Network. And this is still very young. You see, we need some more hard work to make it big and much bigger. And this is one of today's and tomorrow's event. This international conference is also a part of the output of the ACE. That's why we can ask some expert from Asian countries to participate in this event today and tomorrow. And then this year, 2020, we also attended visual meeting of the PCCB network. And now APIK is connected to the PCCB network as one of the members of the network. And this is one of the events. And that's why some speakers today are, we are quite happy, and we thank them a lot that they can attend and they can share very valuable information, scientific data, scientific information with us all. And this is this is in line what we heard from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia this morning, and then the next season, the following seasons, we also could see clearly that how important networks in addressing all related problem or all climate change related problems. No one can work by themselves. No single country can work by himself, by themselves. But we need to be hand in hand to address all this multifaceted problem related to climate change. And of course, future challenge and future opportunity. Just now, Ibu Nur mentioned, and Ibu Lia also mentioned, underline the last word from Ibu Nur, that this is a chance, this is an opportunity, and this is in line. Although APIK is relatively new, about 7 years old, and then ACE is less than 1 year old, it means that we need we still have a big challenge, and also at the same time big opportunities to step further to address all aspects of climate change. And network even become much more important because why? Because COVID now we are COVID. So it means that we have enabling measure, many enabling measure, policy, research institute, scientific and technology experience, and how all of these resources are combined and hopefully can boost all steps to address, and we don't want to lose momentum, as Carl mentioned just now. And how is it built and how is it achieved? One key answer: partnership.
Partnership. All right. Pak Sabarudin, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Pak Sabarudin has mentioned about the importance of networking to build partnership, and then to reflect again that this is also an opportunity, and then especially with the pandemic right now, we need to keep momentum to build back better. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and then again, I would like to test whether Dr. Marzina already with us. If not, then we can go on again and then try our best to fix again. Dr. Marzina? Maybe not yet. All right. Next. Oh, hold on. Did I hear any voice? Oh, that's from Pak Sabar. Okay. All right. Next, our last speaker before Dr. Marzina. Really hope that Dr. Marzina can join us. Is Dr. Velino P. Lansigan. I hope I pronounced it correctly. He is from the College of Art and Communication, University of the Philippines, Los Banos. And he's also the Asia Climate Expert, or ACE network member. Some of you might heard ACE already. And then he will be sharing about the role of Asia Climate Expert, ACE Network, for strengthening regional climate actions. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Leah. I first would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present and discuss the Asia Climate Expert Network and its role in strengthening regional climate action. The ACE network actually provides a platform for scientific individuals and groups who are studying climate science and the impacts of climate change on long-term development strategies in the region, in particular, Southeast Asia initially. It was actually founded in September 2019, last year, at the Asia Pacific Climate Week in Bangkok, Thailand, where, well, as shown in the picture earlier, shown by Dr. Sabarudin and so on. Well, the founding members are scientists from Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam initially. You'll note here in the picture that the meeting actually focused on Southeast Asian resilience in agriculture and biodiversity, where experts from Southeast Asia actually discuss and share knowledge on agriculture and biodiversity, including the national as well as community level assessment of climate change impacts, as well as implications of increased greenhouse gases. As we all know, climate change is global. Its effects and impacts are national and also local. There are observational evidences, analysis, and projections that raise concern, and most of them are frightening, like rice yield decline in Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, up to 50% by the turn of the century. Under a number of emission scenarios, the coral triangle food provision capacity for coastal communities is projected to be lessened by 50% by 2050. Additionally, biodiversity in marine ecosystems losses is estimated to be worth $58 billion in terms of fisheries under the business as usual scenario. Moreover, coral reef dissolution is estimated to set in at 560 parts per million of atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration, which according to the high emission scenario will be reached by the mid of 21st century. Moreover, records also show that mainland Southeast Asia, including Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, lost between 2 to 4% of their forest cover between the 1973 and 2009. However, in some areas like Laos PDR, Cambodia, Indonesia, and Malaysia is even more. In recent years, with increasing high prices of palm oil, rubber, and more recently wood pulp, these figures have increased rather than decreased. And UNEP projects the loss of about 98% of forests in large parts of Indonesia by year 2022, based on the UNEP study of 2007. Yes, climate impacts are expected to be worse in the future. Thus, proactive climate actions are needed, such as climate-smart solutions that are homegrown or developed locally, but are sustainable and replicable in other areas, particularly within the region of Southeast Asia, like introducing climate-smart agriculture and good agricultural practices, tropical peat restorations, and so on. We also need climate-informed policies that enable climate actions at the local level, even at the national level. These are evidence and science-based climate action framework as a basis of formulating the strategies, or climate-smart agricultural researches and interventions that are supported both by the government as well as the community. Peat forest restoration policies, finance policy support for countries and local communities as implementation support and risk transfer mechanisms, like the use of weather index-based insurance, which is now becoming very popular in Southeast Asia. We need more multi-stakeholders collaboration involving research and extension initiatives, as well as in policy studies and formulations at all levels, the local, sub-national, and national level. And of course, stakeholder and sectoral consultations should be promoted and encouraged. So what's ACE call for action? ACE, this includes the recognition that climate change are both environmental and development issues. It's a strengthened capacity building and knowledge sharing among scientists with other experts in various fields of development, including economics, public policy, health, and so on. And this was actually alluded to earlier by our good friend, Dr. Sabaruddin. We need more representations of the region in climate research analysis in the regional and international arena through South-South collaboration, participation in IPCC assessment, and similar activities. We need open platform for experts to discuss regional issues through media and journalism, and so on. We also need to promote scientists and policymakers working together to achieve country development strategies that are evidence-based, science-based, such as the NAP mentioned earlier, including also the NDCs of each country. And of course, collectively, we can, within the region, address the gaps in knowledge and policy development that exist in the region through regional cooperation. So ladies and gentlemen, colleagues in Southeast Asia, we need to collaborate We need to exchange knowledge and experiences besetting us. Please join us in the ACE network and let us work together as a team within our region, and let us save our planet. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Felino. So I think one of the most important information from Dr. Felino was the ACE call for action, which later, hopefully, the material can be shared with the participants, if you don't mind, so that we can learn more about the initiative. And so thank you again, Dr. Felino. And then now, let's try our last hope with Dr. Marzena. Are you here with us already, Dr. Marzena? If not, then I need to call.
Hello? Yes?
Oh,
Hello,
yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm so terribly sorry. I warned people because I was using Microsoft Surface, which is not the best in the circumstances, it seems. Let me start my video, although I might have an inappropriate background. I was playing with it and I don't know how to switch it off now. So I'm actually not on holidays and it's a virtual background. I'm at home. Well, I'd like to say hello to everyone, and again to apologize for what happened with the connection. And I will try to speak without slides because I didn't have time enough to transfer my presentation to this device. However, I would like to say a few words about. Yeah,
please continue.
Yes, sorry, it's not me. I don't have any background noises, so perhaps someone hasn't switched off the microphone. Going back to what I wanted to say briefly is that I've been a member of the Paris Committee with 11 other colleagues from all regional groups in the negotiations under the UNFCCC since the very beginning of this constituted bodies, and we've started by serving the convention. However, last year at COP25, the PCCB was reviewed by the parties and its mandate was extended by the next 5 years. It is decision 9 of CP25. And we are now focusing on 3 main top priority areas, which are enhancing coherence and coordination of capacity building under the convention, identifying capacity gaps and needs, both current and emerging, and recommending ways to address them, as well as promoting awareness, awareness raising, knowledge and information sharing, and stakeholder engagement with bodies and relevant actors outside and inside the convention. And we are also now serving the Paris Agreement since last year. So actually, we will be doing the same work for the Paris Agreement. And we hope really that our helicopter approach, so to speak, by trying to coordinate and trying to bring together various actors will yield results that would enable us to provide recommendations to parties of the Paris Agreement and of the Convention through our annual technical report. And with specific work concerning capacity gaps and needs, we have in our previous term conducted a pilot exercise in which we were trying to capture national capacity building gaps and needs, as well as success factors, good practices, and lessons learned with regard to closing existing capacity gaps in developing countries. for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. And last year, there was a technical paper based on the results of that pilot exercise published, and I would like to encourage everyone to go to the UNFCCC website, select capacity building, and under the PCCB you will be able to find all the information about our work, technical papers, the annual reports, as well as there is a capacity building portal to which everyone is invited to contribute and use it. As well as that previous work, building on that, we have started in this current working period to work on the toolkit for assessing needs and gaps for capacity building. And there is a concept note which you can find on our website. The number of it is PCCB/2020/4. And this concept note provides an overview of what the toolkit could be. And the committee will be working on this toolkit, and we are hoping that it will form part of our work plan, which we are now submitting to the parties to accept the work plan for 21-24. So it's for the future. And another thing is that we are in the process of establishing an informal coordination and collaboration space on capacity building under the convention, based on a technical paper which was prepared in 2019. And the title of the paper, which you can also find on our website, was Coherence and Coordination of Capacity Building Activities of Constituted Bodies and Other Relevant Processes under the Convention. So in response to the needs that were identified through this paper, we have built on the notion of informal coordination mechanism. It was discussed intersessionally by PCCB members, and we have developed another concept note, which is PCCB/2020/5, and it was discussed and considered at our recent 4th meeting of the PCCB. So with that, we hope to align this informal coordination space with PCCB priority areas, of which, of course, the second one is identification of gaps and needs. And we will rely on this informal coordination space, or informal coordination group, as we decided to call it, to provide us with feedback on identification of gaps and needs, critical input on how this informal coordination group members should address gaps and needs in their day-to-day work. And with regard to what it should look like, we think that, well, it's a pity I can't show you the graph, but this informal coordination group will consist of the constituted bodies, of the operating entities, of the financial mechanism, as well as we would like to invite academia, non-governmental organizations, civil society, private sector, and parties, developing countries parties and developed country parties, that would informally congregate in that coordination space. We are still working on the modalities, and obviously we will want to rely a lot on virtual meetings, which we are doing also in other contexts, because my colleague from the PCCB is going to present the PCCB network, and the PCCB network this year is meeting virtually. We have inaugurated the network in a virtual space, and on the 1st of November we are going to have a meeting on the subject of recovering better together. So virtual space has really changed the way we work, but obviously also through various written inputs as submissions, because it is possible to submit at any time through the UNFCCC portal a contribution to our work, which we are considering in various spaces that we have for a collaboration. We have also 4 working groups, of which one is specifically dedicated to identifying capacity gaps and needs. And for this group, we are also inviting external experts, and we are at the moment working on the modalities how to enable those experts to work with us. So I do hope that despite occasional difficulties that this virtual context is creating, we should really continue interacting and trying to build our capacities together and try to recover better from the circumstances that we are in. So thank you very much for your patience, and I'm really glad that I've done it. Thank you.
You've done it. So thank you very much, Dr. Marzena Kodor. She is the co-chair for Paris Committee on Capacity Building in the UNFCCC. So I'm also very happy that you finally can join, because your views here are super important. And now I guess we have all of the speakers share their insights. It was great. Now we can go on the discussion to dig deeper. Then we do have some questions from the participants. And I would like to address one question to the ambassador, if His Excellency Ken O'Flaherty is still here. There's a question about this, very important and interesting. What are the challenges preparing for COP? As I understand, I've been to COP several times. It's a very complex process, and then can be also tricky as well. What are the challenges preparing COP and engaging countries to be more ambitious in this pandemic era? Yes, so His Excellency, if you would like to share some of your thoughts on that. Now we can't hear you. Oh no. Yeah, we can't really hear you. Is it only me, or the others also cannot hear him?
No, we cannot hear too.
Yeah, we can hear it, but it's very low.
Yeah. There was no problem before. What is going on today? Sorry. Yeah, we can't hear you. I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe you need to log out and log in again. We can continue on the question too while waiting for the ambassador to come back. This is also, well, this is to Dr. Marzeno about the capacity building and the justice issue. There is a lot of local community in the buffer zone who are willing to try and implement new technology, but sometimes resources, other than resources gap, there's also technical gap. But if they're very willing to do that, what kind of inclusive action that has been done by PCCB or other organizations or government to support the voices from the local community to be heard? Because sometimes like support come and go, and they usually only last for like 1-2 years and then go. And then what happened to the sustainability of that process? So perhaps Dr. Marzena can share her thought on that.
Well, the retention of capacity is one of the key problems that developing countries are facing. And we've been discussing this issue, for example, in the context of our PCCB hubs, because at each COP we organize a series of dedicated capacity building days, and one of the ways to address this is by trying to forge lasting relationships between the government, academia, local governments and civil society, and building such networks like yours actually that try to keep the momentum of work going, and actually do not leave things at certain stage, thinking that, okay, we have now, for example, submitted NDC to the UNFCCC, so now we can relax, and then, you know, when there is a call for the next one, we suddenly, you know, there is another surge of activity, and again everything subsides. So this is one of the key ways to keep it going all the time, to have incremental approach to work, and also keep the civil society interested. That's why I think we were also looking at gender aspect, because without engaging women, you cannot really make sure that this will trickle down to everyday aspect. Also, with regard to the next COP, our colleagues in Italy and the presidency will look into engaging young people. So this will actually bring all the groups in the society into the fore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Another follow-up question, just very quickly, if you can answer it very briefly. Is there any type of kind of channel that will be available for them to possibly gain connection or access to recent technology, for example, for these communities in the village, for example?
Well, as I know, there are regional offices of CTCN, so I think they are actually focusing on technology transfer and building up capacity for absorption of technologies, and definitely we are cooperating with them in the context of our informal coordination mechanism, but also in the context of our usual work with constituted bodies and other organizations. But definitely they are the first stop to go to in order to get some help.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I really like when you've mentioned that inclusivity in general, and then including women and youth, are a key importance, key aspects here to keep the momentum using the incremental approach, so that after we submit things, we cannot relax, right? So we should continue to work on it. Yeah, that's a good reminder for all of us, I guess, here. And then I'm coming back to Pak Ken. I call you Pak because you are, you know, a lot of Indonesians here. Pak means Minister.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Woohoo.
Good. Thanks.
Oh yeah, if you still remember my question, so
Absolutely.
you can. Yeah.
Sure. And just before I do, I wanted to pick up on what was just said, because I think it's a really important point that climate action never stops. And I was chairing a meeting with ASEAN partners just last week, where Singapore was talking about the preparation of their NDC and then their long-term strategy. And they described how the process actually feeds in itself. So they've done their NDC, then they did their long-term strategy, and that informed them about what they needed to do differently in their next NDC. And so it's a process which does continue. And I think that we're all learning as we go along. And of course, technologies are changing all the time as well. So solutions exist this year that didn't exist last year. So I think it's important that it's a constant battle or fight. In terms of the challenges facing the COP26 presidency, I think obviously we have the standard challenge of any presidency, which is that there are so many countries who have to take action, and there's only so much presidency to go around. And that's why we appointed regional ambassadors to help our engagement at political level across the world. So my area, I think, is the most interesting one, covering Asia Pacific, so everything from Pakistan all the way to the Cook Islands, and it's been a fantastic job. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has been a major challenge so far, and you visibly manifested, of course, in the postponement by 1 year of COP26. And we're very determined that that postponement of the event does not mean postponement of climate action. And so that's the focus of our work at the moment, is making sure that we're maintaining the momentum. My role was supposed to be traveling 3 weeks out of every month around Asia. So obviously that's not happening now, but I think there's also opportunities in terms of video technology. And of course I'm polluting less, which is good, but I'm also able to meet perhaps a wider range of partners more quickly. And it's great to be having the contact with civil society in particular, which is possible through this medium now. I would say that obviously the COVID-19 pandemic has also preoccupied governments worldwide. So that has been the main focus of governments. I think our role as presidency is making clear that climate change does not wait, and that the policies delivered to help populations with the pandemic also need to reflect climate change prerogatives as well. And of course, within Asia, a big part of our focus is the energy transition, and the fact that green technology and renewable energy is, of course, good technologies to be investing in for climate change reasons, but actually they're very good for economic reasons. They are cheaper now than coal, and the costs are falling constantly. So countries that invest in renewable energy will be positioning themselves in a growth industry, whereas coal is very clearly a doomed industry, and investment worldwide is plummeting as we speak. So I think that's part of the answer, but also environmental. Asian governments in particular face strong pressures from their populations around tackling air pollution, which has a major impact on health of citizens across the region. And so, of course, investment in renewables also helps those as well. So I think those are some of the issues which we're tackling with, but I'm very happy to talk in more detail if you wanted me to. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm totally agree with you that your work is super important in this region, engaging the countries in this region as well. So best of luck with that. And also I really like the that you mentioned climate change doesn't wait. So we can't really wait until the pandemic is over and then we recover and then come back again. We need to address it now as well, because we are kind of in the crossroad now. Either we build back, not better, but continue back to our old way of doing, or we have the chance to reset and then continue to a new pathway, which is more exciting. Thank you very much for the insight. If we have time later, we can go around back for another question. And then there's also another good question related to youth. So I would like to invite Pak Sabar from APIK and then Dr. Valino to comment on how does, because we've seen so many movements of youth across the globe right now demanding for a more ambitious climate actions, including Indonesia. You know, youth are started to ask questions and then demanding more. But there are, of course, there are gaps that needs to be addressed in terms of capacity building. How do we ensure that youth can enhance their capacity while trying to save their own future? Pak Sabarudin and Mr. Valino maybe can share some insights on this and how to ensure the inclusivity of all these youth and other marginalized communities, so that they can give some inputs to the, you know, the gaps and need assessment that Dr. Marzino was mentioning.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Bu Lia. It reminds me of back a few years ago in 1995, long time ago, when I was involved in the first project in South Sumatra related to how to prevent forest fire in South Sumatra. At the time, we designed a specific program based on age, starting from primary school, secondary school, and then high school. That is the main target. I think based on that, and then 2013, we identified that there are many experts in Indonesia involved in aspects related to climate change, forest fire, forest sustainability, biodiversity. And then based on that fact, we try and we discuss intensively, and then finally we agreed to establish a network where we call it now APIK network. And this network accept all kind of members. As I told you just now, that we have almost 500 members and consisting of many stakeholders, regardless of age, regardless of education, regardless of organization, regardless of gender. We all try to connect these all stakeholders to ensure the inclusivity of all generation to address this important issue, because it's growing and it's there, it's a fact. We cannot deny it. And as I concluded in my presentation, that partnership is the key, and we need a smart partnership. I think that's what I can share this time. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Felino.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Youth involvement is actually very important. They will serve as catalysts for, pressuring the leaders, particularly at the national and also local level, to do something. And as I mentioned earlier, we need proactive climate actions, okay? But then to do that, we need to study. You have to do your lessons, okay? So that means we need to really improve the human capital in our respective locality, not only in our municipality or province or region, but then the entire world. We need to mobilize these people. How? We need to educate them so that when they become leaders themselves or maybe executives, they are actually informed. Okay, so the climate actions will be knowledge-based. The climate actions will be evidence-based, because our youth now are more intelligent than before. That's my assumption. Okay, and therefore we need to use them as our collaborators in regional activities. So perhaps one particular idea would be the sharing of expertise and experiences. And there are certain groups now promoting youth ambassadors of climate change. Okay, that's good. Okay, but then I hope it's not used only for political purposes. They are used really to move people, to mobilize people in the communities. Okay, I've seen this in many places, that some of them are just being used because it's election time. Okay, I hope it's not. Okay, and therefore I would like, this is a good opportunity, particularly that we cannot move around. Perhaps we can use the youth, through a virtual regional climate academy or something like that. Okay, a virtual climate academy. This could be a break from their regular classes. Okay, so we can inject, for example, climate change, climate action that we would like to promote. So they will be involved in capacity building, this climate academy, or through collaborative research like assessment studies, risk transfer mechanisms that I mentioned earlier, and more importantly, policy formulation or policy studies, so that this will be used in making good decisions that are proactive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a great input that we need to follow up, if everyone agree with me. So Pak Sabar and Pak Felino, and especially Pak Felino, has suggested maybe with this region, because we have the ambassador here as well, we could try to set up or initiate something like that, maybe gathering some of the organizations in the region, and then to conduct something like the climate academy, for virtual climate academy, for example, as Mr. Felino has said. I think that would be great for our youth in a lot of the countries in the Asia Pacific and South Asia. Anyone else would like to add more? Yes, Mr. Ken.
I'm sure. I mean, that sounds a very interesting idea, and of course, keep us aware. And I'd be very interested in hearing more if that idea takes off. I just wanted to flag, of course, the UK's partners of Italy, and will be hosting the Youth COP next year. We think that will be a very important event in bringing together youth across the world. Engagement with youth is also a key part of our strategy as COP26 presidency. So I am meeting youth organizations, for example, in Bangladesh and elsewhere, as part of my job. And I think it's very important because I think it's obvious that young people will face the consequences of climate change more than people such as myself, because they will be seeing the more drastic effects of climate change in decades to come. And so I think it's very important that we integrate youth as part of our international efforts on climate change, and indeed, of course, integrating other marginalized groups as well. And working with indigenous populations, for example, is also a particular part of our role, notably in the Pacific, which is an area close to my heart. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. That's very soothing things to hear, and hopefully we can have some updates in the near future. Thank you. And then there's one question also directed to Ibu Nur. Ibu Nur, because you've been in this climate change agenda area since like a lot of decades, and then you were the former Director General of Climate Change, so you have kind of like a more helicopter view of the things going on. And can you share like about what are the most the challenges and the most gaps in the capacity building arena in Indonesia, and what kind of action that you and the team or Indonesia in general with related stakeholders do about it? Ibu Nur, if you can like share very briefly about this. Ibu Nur, are you still with us? Wah, Bu Nur menghilang. All right. If not, so yeah, I just want to make sure. Okay, let me take Ibu Nur. Oh yeah, Bu Nur is not here with us already. So yeah, well, I guess now it's time for me to ask each of the remaining speakers that are here to give 1 minute closing statement, maximum 1 minute, so that the participants can take away your most important messages to action. Maybe I can start with the ambassador.
Of course, I think my key message would be that we all need to work together to deliver the Paris Agreement goals, and that for us, engagement by governments, business and civil society has to be the answer to that. So a holistic approach, so everyone has their role to play. Please do continue to stay engaged, and the UK presidency will want to continue to support all your efforts. Thank you very much. I'm afraid I have to go now for another commitment, but it's been fantastic participating. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and then we support you all the way for your task in this. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you.
And then continue. Maybe I can ask Dr. Marzena.
Yes, I would like to say that in the spirit of cooperation, I would like to encourage all of you to consider joining the PCCB network if you haven't done so. And my colleague in the PCCB, Mahawan, will be making a presentation on the network, which will give you more information on what is the network doing and how it works. And with that in mind, I think going back to the nature-based solutions, we need really to focus on this area in our work as well, because I mentioned that we have the PCCB hub and we have thematic days, and nature-based solutions are crucial for us to go to net zero, and more focus on that is really welcome. So I really congratulate you that you have focused on this topic, and I hope that work on this issue will continue. Thank you very much. I will try to stay for today, listening to what's going on, and I will wish you all the best for tomorrow because I will have other engagements. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marzena. Greatly appreciated your view on this. Next, Pak Felino.
Okay, Leah. Okay. While even if we have different languages in our region, in Southeast Asia or the whole of Asia, we have common capacity. Okay, we have the human capacity, we have expertise, we have experiences on how to deal with climate or climate change and its impact. So the thing is, we need to harness this human capital. So we need to collaborate. Okay, that's
Hello?
or as a team. Okay, we can work together as a team because when we work as a team, we achieve more and hopefully faster than when we work alone in our respective countries. So I would encourage our colleagues from APIK institutions to join us in the ACE network, and maybe we can invite other scientists, other development workers to join the network so we can address a common problem better and faster. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much, Dr. Felino. And then the last but not least, Pak Sabar. Briefly, Pak, 1 minute.
To be the last person is, the rest of the information. I think three speakers three previous speakers have already concluded very strongly. But once again, I want to strengthen that we are Indonesian. We nationally have common problem. Regionally, Asia have common problem, and the whole world have common problem. That is climate change. And we have already accumulated a lot of scientific data, scientific information, scientific experience, lesson learned, failure learned. But now, what I want to encourage is a smart partnership, smart and strong partnership, hand in hand all together. I think that's what I can say. Thank you very much, Leah.
Thank you, Pak Sabar. Bu Nur, we got you back again.
Yeah,
Ibu,
there
if you
was
can provide, if you can provide 1 minute closing statement, Bu, for takeaway message for the participants.
Okay, thank you, Pulia. Apology that I got disconnected, so I missed what other colleague stated. So I think, I just would like to focus my closing statement connected to the theme of the international seminar this time. So one is capacity building. The second is nature-based solutions. So I think nature-based solutions provide a lot of opportunity for us for mitigation and adaptation, also for livelihood provision. And capacity building is a must for developing countries if we want to see increased ambition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu. Super concise, but very important. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our session today on capacity building to build more ambitious climate actions. Thank you very much for the speakers, for all the great insights, and thank you for the participants, of course, for watching it through the end. And don't forget that tomorrow there will be another session, which information you can see on the screen in the moment. Yes. This is it. We'll start at 9 a.m. Jakarta. So yeah, need to grab a coffee before. So we'll be awake and hope to see you all tomorrow in that event. And I am, again, thank you very much for all the speakers who are joining and then asking questions, and then the participants who ask questions. And I'm Leah Zakia. Thank you for watching and see you around. Bye. Thank you, Bapak Ibu.
Mbak Leah, please, maybe we can take a picture together.
Oh yes, sorry, picture is important. So, so maybe the participants can turn the video on and then maybe fix the hair and stuff before our picture. It is allowed. Yeah, we have like 6 screen here because a lot of participants are joining until the end. That's great. So yeah, any pose, Pak, or just like smile? Smile, yeah. Okay, and the committee maybe can help counting so that we know where we can start smiling. Keep smiling. Yeah, because it's six screen.
All done, Bulia.
Sudah.
Sudah, all done.
Oh, that's pretty quick for 6. So thank you very much. That's great. So I had a great time. Hopefully you also had a great time. And then see you around anytime, anywhere, because it's virtual time. No really time restriction right now. So yeah, thank you, Ken. Be safe. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you, colleagues. Yeah. Thank you, Marcena. Thank you, Ms. Helino. Thank you, Ms. Tibik. Thank you, Ms. Lee. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next conference.
Yeah, thank you juga Pak Mahawan for organizing this great webinar.
Nice to see you all today.
Thank you, Mbak Lia.
Bye.
Maybe in the next time you can join again.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, one of to be APIK member.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, representing youth.
Yes, I'm still youth. Millennials, yes. No, youth,
Millennial.
no, Pak. Yeah, based on Kemenpora's definition, I'm not youth anymore, Pak.
Millennial.
Oh, yeah. But millennial.
You are.
Okay. I'm millennials.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, all the speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you and bye.
See you again.
See you.
Marzena,
Thank
see you again, Mariana.
I'm sorry about this, a
Thank
lot of
you.
adrenaline.
It's okay. It's
okay.
nice to meet you.
It's okay. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Okay, talk to you next time. See you
See you next time.
Bye.
See you next time. Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, Pak Mahawan and friend, all speaker, moderator, Yayan from Yogyakarta.
But you need to be here, Pak Yayan. You
Pak
cannot
Yayan,
leave
you
now.
should stay.
You should stay. Yes.
You should
Don't leave.
stay.
Don't leave.
Don't leave. You should stay.
Okay.
Pak Januar, please ensure that you are still in this room.
Pak Januar also.
Yeah.
Pak Agus is still on. Agus Kastanya. Ibu Eka ada? Oh, Ibu Eka ada. Ibu Eka is still online.
Ada satu nama yang nggak bisa saya remove, Pak. Ini
Iya, itu apa namanya? Asistennya Pak apa namanya? Dari apa? Dari Yuki. Dari Yuki.
Oh.
Enggak apa-apa, saya juga nggak tahu kenapa. Apa namanya? Saya put di waiting room.
ya, berarti udah semua, Pak.
Oke,
Ini
ya.
Ini Riko-nya Mas Riko bukan ya?
Iya, cuma ada satu dia. Riko kita cuma satu. Oke, semuanya
Satu
sudah
makanya
ya.
dia eman-eman.
Oke, baik Bapak Ibu, biar kita tidak terlalu lama karena kita sudah dari siang. Terima kasih. Alhamdulillah hari ini lancar ya dan semuanya on time dan semua dapat hadir, tidak ada persoalan. Ya, tadi sempat deg-degan juga, kasihan juga sama Mersena dia. Memang beberapa kali rapat dengan dia sering kasus begitu gitu. Jadi